In the heart of Mapleton, a serene winter morning once offered a pristine canvas, a blanket of fresh snow, silencing the world with its gentle hush. This tranquil tableau promised continuity, a quiet unfolding of ordinary lives, brimming with the warmth of hopes and aspirations. Yet, even in such idyllic stillness, unseen currents can stir, capable of tearing through the delicate fabric of peace with sudden, devastating force. For Sarah Jenkins, a young woman vibrant with ambition and love, the dawn of one particular Tuesday would bring an unimaginable end to her journey. Her life, so full of promise, was abruptly extinguished, leaving behind an indelible stain on the perfect winter landscape. The silent, cold embrace of the season became both a shroud and a witness, holding secrets that threatened to vanish with the rising sun. How could such profound violence erupt from the quiet comfort of home, and would the unforgiving elements become an accomplice to a killer's escape? Or would they ultimately yield the truth before it was too late? On a frigid Tuesday morning, a profound stillness had settled over Mapleton. Freshly fallen snow, immaculate and undisturbed, deeply muffled the tree-lined streets of Alderwood Drive, casting an ethereal sheen over the pre-dawn hours. It was a silence that seemed to hold the world captive, offering a tranquil pause from the relentless rhythm of daily life. For Arthur Finch, a spry 72-year-old, this hushed landscape formed the perfect backdrop for his habitual morning stroll with his golden retriever, Midas. The dog, usually a boisterous explorer of every scent, moved with an uncharacteristic solemnity, his breath pluming in the biting air. At precisely 6:17 a.m., their serene rhythm fractured. As they neared the municipal park entrance, Midas stopped abruptly, his ears twitching, a low, guttural growl rumbling in his chest. His tail, usually a blur of motion, hung still as he tugged insistently on his leash towards a partially obscured shape within a snowdrift. What Mr. Finch initially perceived as a macabre effigy, a discarded mannequin, half buried, slowly, terrifyingly coalesced into the undeniable form of a human. The dawn's weak light revealed not plastic, but the rigid outline of a body partially interred by the night's relentless precipitation. A gasp caught in Arthur's throat, turning instantly to icy vapor. The once innocent expanse of white was now violently ruptured by a crimson stain, a stark visceral testament to a life brutally taken. The victim, later identified as Sarah Jenkins, a vibrant 29-year-old marketing executive, lay utterly still, her vitality extinguished amidst the dawn's cold embrace. Mapleton's tranquil quietude soured, settling into a profound and heavy stillness, far more crushing than the weight of the snow itself. It marked not just the end of an ordinary day, but the violent theft of a future. A palpable shockwave rippled through the peaceful community, leaving an enduring wound on what should have been a perfect winter morning. The distant wail of sirens, still muted by the snow, began to tear at the fragile quiet, heralding the grim reality of an urgent labyrinthine investigation. The blare of sirens, once a distant wail, now ripped through Mapleton's fragile, quiet, dismantling the morning's illusion of undisturbed peace. Uniformed officers rapidly converged on the municipal park entrance, their vibrant yellow tape a stark, almost violent demarcation against the immaculate snow, carving out the sacred, unsettling perimeter of a crime scene. As specialized units arrived, the formidable complexities inherent in a winter homicide became starkly apparent. Every bootfall on the fresh powder left a print, every exhaled breath ghosted in the air, every delicate snowflake a potential contaminant, or conversely a silent witness preserving a vital clue. Detective Mark Hayes, his features etched with the cumulative fatigue of countless grim discoveries, stepped from his patrol car, pulling his heavy coat tighter against the biting wind. Alongside him, Detective Lisa Chen, her gaze sharp and analytical, surveyed the scene with a methodical intensity that belied the biting cold. Both were seasoned veterans of the city's homicide unit, intimately familiar with the unforgiving nature of a winter investigation. Hayes, his gloved hands hovering cautiously above Sarah Jenkins' body, knelt with deliberate care, a professional detachment veiling the deep wariness in his eyes as he absorbed the brutal intimacy of the scene. He noted the victim's precise position, the minimal disturbance to the immediate area. Chen, the team's precise orchestrator, immediately began issuing directives to the arriving forensic unit. Every trace, every fiber, every drop, she instructed, her voice crisp against the wind's low moan. Document it all before the elements claim it. Forensic specialists moved with a practiced urgency, their breath plumes dancing in the frigid air as they meticulously photographed, mapped, and collected evidence. The snow, initially a formidable adversary, steadily began to reveal its dual nature, both a threat to evidence and a unique preservative. Faint drag marks, the ghost of a struggle in the disturbed powder, and a barely discernible footprint with a distinctive tread pattern were all painstakingly catalogued, frozen in its icy grip. Working against the relentless, clock-battling numb fingers and the constant threat of fresh snowfall, the team deployed brushes, tweezers, and plaster casts. Each minute detail, however minuscule, was understood to be critical in this frozen tableau, holding the potential key to unlocking the truth behind Sarah Jenkins' final horrifying moments. The environment itself imposed a brutal race against nature, forcing investigators to decipher a story held captive by ice and snow. With the crime scene meticulously secured and the initial processing underway, a new critical countdown began for the Mapleton Police Department. The clock now openly ticked on the first 48 hours, the most vital period in any homicide investigation. Detectives Hayes and Chen, having spent invaluable hours braving the biting cold, retreated to the precinct, establishing their makeshift command post in a cramped interview room. The sterile fluorescent lighting and the faint scent of stale coffee offered a stark, almost jarring counterpoint to the raw, visceral reality of the frozen park. Yet within these walls, a different, equally potent urgency now took hold. Their most immediate and harrowing priority was family notification. Detective Hayes, known for delivering devastating news with a somber professional dignity, made the call. Eleanor and Robert Jenkins, Sarah's parents, answered with an unsuspecting warmth that soon dissolved into a raw, gut-wrenching cry. The sound, sharp and primal, ripped through the precinct's controlled hum, silencing the usual activity. Eleanor Jenkins, clutching a worn, framed photograph of her daughter, her face a mask of disbelief and profound grief, struggled to articulate the profound chasm that had opened in her world. She was larger than life. Her voice, though choked with tears, held a fierce, unwavering tremor. Full of plans, full of joy. She was always pushing herself, always reaching for more. You can't be strong through something like that. It just rips you to pieces. Her words, painted a vivid, heartbreaking portrait of the young woman whose life had been so violently cut short, highlighting the depth of the void left in her wake. Robert Jenkins stood beside her, his shoulders shaking silently, a man suddenly stripped of his anchors. Simultaneously, uniformed officers fanned out across Alderwood Drive and the surrounding neighborhood. They began the painstaking process of door-to-door canvassing, their questions gentle but insistent, probing for anyone who might have seen or heard anything unusual in the pre-dawn hours. Most residents, still reeling from the news, offered only recollections of the heavy snowfall and the unbroken quiet of the night, a deceptive tranquility that had veiled a horrific act. A few recalled the distant rumble of a snowplow or the faint glow of a neighbor's porch light, but nothing concrete emerged to grasp onto. Amidst the initial shock and the disheartening scarcity of immediate leads, Detectives Hayes and Chen began to construct a rudimentary timeline of Sarah's last known movements. They meticulously pieced together fragments of her vibrant life, tracing the hours leading up to her death, seeking to understand the intricate patterns of her days. The initial investigative thrust was necessarily broad, yet laser-focused to uncover the true identity of Sarah Jenkins, to map her routine, and most critically, to ascertain who might have harbored a motive dark enough to orchestrate such a brutal end. With every passing minute, the unforgiving clock ticked on, threatening to chill the trail to a permanent freeze. As the forensic team continued their meticulous, bone-chilling work, in the biting cold, sifting through the snow-laden crime scene, for every elusive trace, detectives Hayes and Chen redirected their efforts indoors. Their pressing objective to reconstruct the vibrant life of Sarah Jenkins, to understand the woman who had become a tragic headline. They embarked on a series of interviews, speaking with Sarah's closest circle, her longtime friends, her dedicated colleagues at Nexus Marketing Solutions, and her heartbroken, grief-stricken family. Each conversation, often punctuated by raw, difficult emotion, added another brushstroke to Sarah's complex persona. Eleanor Jenkins, Sarah's mother, still reeling from the unimaginable void, struggled to voice the essence of her daughter, her words thick with unshed tears. She always pushed herself, always reached for more, Eleanor recounted, her voice trembling but firm. We were so proud of the woman she was becoming. She was so full of life, so many dreams that now will never be. Through her mother's sorrow, Sarah materialized as a driven professional, a brilliant strategist, revered by her peers, a loyal friend who championed others' successes, and a cherished daughter whose absence left an echoing, unbearable silence. Jessica Ramirez, Sarah's best friend since college, tearfully described Sarah's recent joy over a hard-won promotion at Nexus and her hopeful, albeit cautious, outlook on a new romantic interest, a charming architect she'd recently encountered. She was finally finding her rhythm. You know, everything was just falling into place. Jessica whispered, her gaze distant, lost in memory. Yet as the interviews deepened, the detectives began to uncover fainter, more unsettling currents beneath Sarah's outwardly polished existence. There were recent intense tensions at work, particularly revolving around a demanding, high-stakes client project that had pushed Sarah to her absolute limits. Then the name Julian Vance emerged, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, whose inability to accept their breakup had become increasingly apparent to her friends and family. His calls, once a comforting presence, had grown more erratic, tinged with a possessive urgency that had begun to trouble Sarah. Every piece of gathered information, though seemingly innocuous in isolation, wove itself into a potential thread in the intricate tapestry of Sarah's life, hinting at a range of possible motives. Was this brutal act a random, senseless eruption of violence, a tragic encounter in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or did it stem from a professional rivalry that boiled over with deadly force? Or perhaps most chillingly, was it something far more intimate and sinister, a destructive obsession, festering in the shadows of a relationship gone sour? The more detectives Hayes and Chen learned about Sarah, the clearer it became that her vibrant, outwardly successful life might have concealed deeper turbulent waters, inexorably drawing her towards an unforeseen and deadly danger. The initial stark clarity of the crime scene began to dissolve into a complex, unsettling mosaic of human emotion and hidden conflict. Back at the wind-whipped crime scene, the snow presented a dual nature, a relentless adversary and an unexpected confidant. While its constant threat of contamination and erasure complicated the initial forensic sweep, its frozen expanse also preserved delicate, fleeting clues that might otherwise have vanished. Forensics technician Brenda Lee, her breath fogging around her concentrated face, worked with meticulous care to cast a partial footprint discovered near Sarah's body. With a precision bordering on reverence, she poured specialized plaster into the depression, revealing a distinct, almost aggressive pattern in its tread. This impression, in the icy ground so easily obliterated, held the potential shadow of the killer. Meanwhile, at the makeshift command post, Detective Chen, with her characteristic focus on minutiae, orchestrated the exhaustive search for surveillance footage. She deployed teams across a wide radius, canvassing every home and business, understanding that even a fleeting pixelated glimpse of a vehicle or a lone figure could be the vital thread needed to unravel the entire case. Hours bled into a numbing review of static, grainy feeds, a testament to the tedious but essential grind of modern police work. Fingers grew stiff and aching from navigating endless frames, eyes strained from scrutinizing dark, snow-laden visuals. Then, a pivotal shift. A low-resolution camera feed from a corner daily several blocks from the park, and initially considered too distant to be useful, yielded a crucial insight. The timestamp 11:32 p.m. the previous night. The image, Sarah's silver Honda Civic driving past. It was a faint, pixelated confirmation, yet it definitively placed Sarah in the vicinity, hours before her discovery, solidifying a critical juncture in the timeline. Simultaneously, the preliminary medical examiner's report arrived, its clinical language starkly confirming blunt force trauma as the cause of death. The nature of the injuries strongly implicated a brutal personal attack, dispelling any notion of random violence. The snow had guarded its secrets, bearing silent testimony to a heinous act, but slowly, relentlessly, the investigative net tightened. Each collected fiber, every cast footprint, and every captured pixel began to sculpt the faint, chilling visage of a perpetrator from the wintry landscape, transforming an icy enigma into a tangible pursuit. As news of Sarah Jenkins' murder permeated the quiet streets, Mapleton's veneer of tranquility fractured, giving way to a pervasive current of fear and apprehension. Drawn curtains, hushed conversations, and guarded glances between neighbors became the new unsettling norm on Alderwood Drive. Detectives Hayes and Chen, acutely aware of the immediate psychological impact such a violent act could have, rapidly pivoted their investigative focus onto Sarah's intimate circle and the immediate neighborhood. Initial door-to-door inquiries yielded precious little concrete evidence. Mostly, they gathered a patchwork of whispered anxieties and cautious, often vague observations. The majority of residents had been asleep, sheltered by the heavy snowfall. Yet Mrs. Agnes Periwinkle, an elderly resident who habitually kept vigil for her early rising paperboy, offered a potential lead. She recalled seeing a dark-colored SUV idling near the park entrance around midnight. Its engine purred, she noted, but the driver remained obscured, and she could provide no further details beyond a distinct sense of unease that had settled upon her. The detectives then turned their attention to Julian Vance, Sarah's ex-boyfriend, whose name had repeatedly surfaced from friends and family as someone struggling deeply with their breakup. When brought in for questioning, Vance was visibly distraught, his eyes red-rimmed and his hands incessantly wringing. He vehemently insisted he had been home alone, engrossed in a movie, producing a flurry of text messages exchanged with a friend as corroboration for his alibi. His anguish seemed genuine, a raw outpouring of heartbreak. Yet Hayes, with years of experience, sifting truth from performance, understood that emotional displays could often mask darker truths. He observed Vance's repetitive gesture of running a hand through his hair, a nervous tic that seemed to betray a deeper agitation beneath his sorrow. Simultaneously, a more subtle yet equally compelling person of interest emerged: Derek Thorne, a colleague of Sarah's at Nexus Marketing Solution. Thorne was known for his quiet intensity, often observed watching Sarah from a distance, and was rumored to harbor a powerful, unrequited admiration for her. During his interview, Thorne seemed almost too eager to assist, volunteering intricate details about Sarah's professional schedule and even offering various theories about potential suspects. His alibi for the night of the murder, however, proved strikingly vague. He claimed a long drive to clear his head, providing no concrete destination or credible witness. Detective Chen, with her sharp eye for subtle deviations, noticed the slight evasiveness in his gaze, the way his narrative flowed a little too smoothly, almost rehearsed. This distinct lack of specificity, particularly from someone so keen to help, ignited a quiet suspicion within her. From these initial inquiries, a nascent pool of suspects began to coalesce, each presenting their own carefully constructed narrative, a seemingly solid alibi, and a potential yet still unproven connection to Sarah's tragic end. The hunt for answers had truly begun, now shifting from the literal frozen street to the far more intricate and often deceptive landscape of human relationships and hidden desires. The initial tenuous leads concerning Sarah Jenkins' murder had begun to lose their warmth, threatening to dissolve into the vast, chilling expanse of an unsolved case. Then, a decisive shift occurred, a breakthrough emerging from an unexpected corner of the investigation. Detective Chen's relentless, almost singular focus on unearthing surveillance footage across Mapleton finally yielded a crucial piece of the puzzle. A camera situated in a seldom-used alleyway behind the unassuming corner, Dilly initially dismissed due to its poor angle and distant reach, provided a clearer, though still grainy image that fundamentally altered their understanding. The timestamp glowed on the monitor just after 11:30 p.m. the previous night. On the faded screen, Sarah's silver Honda Civic pulled into a shadowed parking spot. Moments later, a figure disembarked from the passenger side. It was unequivocally not Sarah. This individual, visibly male and clad in a distinctive dark jacket, moved with a hurried, purposeful stride, quickly vanishing into the snowy night. The visual quality was imperfect, yet its implication resonated with a terrifying clarity. Someone else had been inside Sarah's car, in the immediate vicinity of the murder scene, mere hours before her body was discovered. This single frame ignited a potent, urgent new direction for the investigation. Leveraging this crucial visual digital forensics, analysts embarked on a painstaking recovery of Sarah's phone data, a silent yet often incontrovertible witness in the modern age. Every call, every message, every data point was subjected to meticulous scrutiny. The revelation was stark. Sarah's last outgoing call, made precisely at 11:47 p.m., was directed to a number not listed in her personal contacts. Further investigation quickly traced this mysterious number to a burner phone, a prepaid device frequently favored by individuals seeking anonymity. The registration and usage patterns of that burner phone led directly back to Derek Thorne, Sarah's co-worker, the very man who had presented himself with such eager helpfulness during initial interviews, offering intricate details and unsolicited theories about the crime. The discovery sent a powerful jolt through the entire investigation team. Thorne had unequivocally claimed to be miles away, driving aimlessly to clear his head during that critical time frame. Yet, his digital footprint, both irrefutable and precise, now positioned him squarely within Sarah's vehicle, minutes before her likely brutal murder. The physical trail in the snow had been fragile, easily lost to the elements. The digital one, however, proved unyielding. It had ripped away the carefully constructed layers of deceit, transforming the narrative from an abstract search for motives to a direct, undeniable confrontation with a calculated deception. The quiet colleague had just become the prime suspect. Derek Thorne was escorted into the sterile confines of interview room 3, ostensibly for follow-up inquiries. Detective Hayes, already seated, adopted a posture of relaxed attentiveness. "Mr. Thorne, we truly appreciate you coming back in." Hayes began, his voice even almost conversational, a subtle lean forward, conveying an impression of genuine cooperation. The atmosphere, deliberately devoid of overt accusation, was carefully calibrated to put Thorne at ease, encouraging him to elaborate on his prior statements. Thorne, initially composed and outwardly sorrowful, readily reiterated his narrative. He recounted in careful detail his alibi for the night of the murder, a long solitary drive to clear his head after a particularly stressful week at work. He spoke of his profound concern for Sarah, his voice tinged with what appeared to be genuine grief, describing her as a valued colleague and a bright, promising individual. From behind the one-way mirror, Detective Chen, her gaze unblinking, meticulously observed Thorne's every micro-expression. She noted the subtle flicker in his eyes whenever Sarah's name was mentioned, the almost imperceptible stiffening in his posture as he recited his well-rehearsed narrative, a performance that carried a faint, unsettling echo of insincerity. The interrogation flowed. Hayes, gently guiding the conversation, allowing Thorne ample space to present his version of events. Then, with a practiced, almost casual ease, Hayes introduced the first undeniable crack in Thorne's carefully constructed facade. He slid a tablet across the table, displaying the grainy surveillance footage of Sarah's silver Honda Civic and the distinct figure emerging from the passenger side near the park. "We found this, Mr. Thorne. It's from around the time Sarah's car was seen." Thorne's composure, once so steady, visibly fractured. The easy flow of his words caught in his throat. Cleared it, a sudden nervous habit, his eyes darting frantically from the screen to Hayes's impassive face. I don't know who that could be," he stammered, his voice losing its confident cadence, the veneer of his innocent facade beginning to splinter under the visual proof. The room's temperature, already cool, seemed to plummet several degrees, a palpable chill settling over the table. Hayes pressed on, his tone still calm, but now infused with an undeniable current of steel. He then presented the digital forensics report, the meticulously recovered phone records detailing Sarah's last outgoing call. He laid out the evidence of the burner phone, and finally the damning timestamp that linked the device directly to Thorne. The air in the interrogation room grew heavy, thick with unspoken accusation, the metaphorical chill matching the icy conditions still gripping Mapleton outside. Thorne's elaborate narrative of an innocent head-clearing drive began to audibly buckle, groaning under the immense weight of the irrefutable digital evidence. His hands, previously still and resting on the table, now clenched into tight fists beneath it, betraying the raw panic that was beginning to seep through his carefully maintained exterior. The game of cat and mouse had just taken a decisive, irreversible turn. Under the intensifying, relentless pressure of Hayes and Chen's strategic questioning, Derek Thorne's carefully constructed persona began to visibly distort and fracture, exposing the agitated, defensive man cowering beneath. The helpful, sorrowful colleague dissolved, replaced by an individual cornered, gasping for rapidly diminishing air. He initially attempted to conjure an elaborate new narrative, a frantic, fabricated counterstory. He claimed he and Sarah had been engaged in a secret consensual affair, a clandestine late-night rendezvous that would explain his damning presence in her car. He painted a picture of a romantic encounter gone sour, an argument, but vehemently denied any physical violence. She just got out upset and walked away. He insisted, his voice rising, laced with frantic energy. I didn't touch her. She was fine when I left. Yet the glaring inconsistencies were already beginning to tear at his improvised tale. Detective Chen, stepping in with calculated precision, decisively shifted the dynamic. Her voice, calm but unwavering, carried the indisputable weight of objective fact. Mr. Thorne, she began, sliding the medical examiner's preliminary report across the table, its stark diagrams of Sarah's injuries a grim, undeniable refutation of his denials. Then why would her injuries be so severe, blunt force trauma, Mr. Thorne? And why would your DNA be found at the scene underneath her fingernails? Her words were not mere inquiries, but pronouncements, each one striking with the undeniable weight of objective truth. The interrogation transformed into a psychological chess match, each detective playing their part in a meticulously choreographed dance of escalating pressure and exposure. Hayes, stoic and persistent, allowed Thorne to stumble further over his increasingly frantic explanations, while Chen systematically dismantled each new lie with cold, irrefutable evidence. Thorne's denials grew weaker, his explanations more fragmented and desperate, as the immense weight of the collected evidence, the surveillance footage, the burner phone records, the grim findings from the medical examiner, slowly, inexorably tightened around his carefully spun narrative. The cool temperature of the room offered no relief to Thorne. Beads of sweat began to prickle his forehead, his shirt visibly damp beneath his dark jacket. His eyes, once attempting a semblance of defiance, now darted frantically around the sterile space, seeking an escape that simply did not exist. He was caught trapped within the suffocating narrative he had woven for himself, the unyielding truth pressing in from all sides with every breathless, desperate lie. The facade had fully collapsed, revealing the chilling, undeniable reality beneath. The relentless pressure of the interrogation, coupled with a swift court-approved warrant executed at Derek Thorne's apartment, finally brought the last undeniable pieces of the chilling puzzle into stark relief. While Thorne continued to buckle under Chen's piercing questions, a separate team of detectives, led by Sergeant Miller, meticulously combed through every corner of his unassuming residence. Their search was methodical, precise, targeting items identified from the blurry surveillance footage and the forensic team's initial findings. Inside Thorne's closet, cunningly concealed beneath a pile of laundry, detectives unearthed a dark jacket. Its distinctive cut and color were an exact match for the garment worn by the shadowy figure seen exiting Sarah's car in the grainy daily footage. Even more damning, faint, almost imperceptible bloodstains shimmered on the cuff and lapel stains that forensic analysis would later confirm were unequivocally Sarah Jenkins's. Next to the jacket, tucked away in the back of the closet, lay a pair of heavy-duty work boots. Their sole pattern provided a chillingly exact match to the plaster cast of the footprint recovered from the snow at the crime scene. Each item, seemingly mundane on its own now, screamed a silent, irrefutable accusation. But the most potent evidence of all emerged from the forensic lab. Thorne's DNA was conclusively matched to the samples found beneath Sarah's fingernails. This was not merely circumstantial. It was intimate, visceral proof of a desperate struggle, a final futile attempt by Sarah to fight off her attacker. It obliterated any remaining shred of Thorne's claims of a consensual affair or a non-physical argument. Faced with this overwhelming scientific evidence, the meticulously documented physical proof, and after hours of relentless but controlled psychological pressure from detectives Hayes and Chen, Thorne finally broke. Carefully constructed facade of the innocent, heartbroken colleague imploded. In a halting, chilling confession, delivered in a voice barely above a whisper, he admitted to his growing, consuming obsession with Sarah, his unreciprocated feelings that had festered into a violent rage. He recounted the escalating argument in her car that fateful night after she firmly, unequivocally rejected his advances. He described how, in a fit of uncontrollable fury, he had dragged her from the vehicle, brutally attacked her, leaving her for dead in the pristine, unforgiving snow. The entire horrifying account, meticulously recorded, would serve as the cornerstone of the prosecution's case. The silent witness of the snow, the cold digital trail, and Sarah's own desperate final act had, in the end, combined to reveal the full horrific truth, exposing the darkest corners of human depravity. The trial of Derek Thorne, a name now indelibly linked with Mapleton's chilling tragedy, held the community in a grip of somber intensity. Weeks of legal proceedings had transformed the quiet courthouse into a relentless crucible where the full, horrifying details of Sarah Jenkins's murder were meticulously laid bare. The prosecution, spearheaded by the unflappable district attorney, Rachel Vance, meticulously constructed an unyielding case, expertly weaving together a tapestry of forensic evidence, the grainy yet damning surveillance footage, and Thorne's own halting, chilling confession into an undeniable narrative of premeditated brutality. Detectives Hayes and Chen took the stand, their testimonies delivered with the professional clarity of those who had plumbed the darkest corners of human depravity. Hayes, steady and direct, recounted the painstaking process of uncovering the crime scene, the fragile evidence preserved in the snow, and the initial elusive leads. Chen, precise and analytical, meticulously detailed the digital forensics, the burner phone, the incriminating timestamps, the irrefutable data that meticulously exposed Thorne's elaborate web of lies. Their words, though devoid of overt emotion, resonated with an unwavering commitment to justice, painting a vivid picture of an investigation that had left no stone unturned, no pixel unexamined. Throughout the grueling testimony, Eleanor Jenkins sat in the front row, her presence a silent, dignified testament to an enduring grief. Her face, once vibrant, was now etched with a profound sorrow that had deepened over the months, casting a permanent shadow in her eyes. She clutched a small silver locket, a treasured keepsake containing a photograph of Sarah's beaming smile. Beside her, Robert, his hand often resting on hers, bore his grief with quiet, aching stoicism, his own pain a palpable presence. Then came the victim impact statement, a powerful moment where the cold legal machinations receded and the raw human cost of the crime surged into sharp, agonizing focus. Eleanor Jenkins, her voice initially trembling with an almost unbearable pain, rose to address the court. Her gaze, however, did not sweep the room. It locked onto Derek Thorne, who sat at the defense table, his face a mask of sullen indifference, utterly devoid of remorse. "Derek Thorne," she began, her voice gathering an unwavering strength, "a testament to a mother's fierce protective love, you stole our daughter. You extinguished a bright, shining light from this world. Sarah was full of dreams, full of life, and you took it all away with a monstrous act fueled by your own twisted obsession." Her words, though spoken softly, resonated through the hushed courtroom, each syllable a direct accusatory arrow aimed at the perpetrator. "You stole our future, our joy, our very breath. You must never again be allowed to walk the earth as a free person to inflict such darkness upon another innocent soul." She articulated not a thirst for vengeance, but a desperate, profound plea for permanent removal, for a justice that would irrevocably prevent any repetition of their agony. Thorne, for his part, remained impassive, his eyes fixed on some point beyond her, steadfastly refusing to acknowledge the pain he had wrought. After days of compelling testimony, intricate legal arguments, and the harrowing victim impact statement, the jury retired. The hours of deliberation stretched into an agonizing eternity for the Jenkins family. Finally, the courtroom doors opened, and the jury returned. The foreman's voice, clear and unhesitating, pronounced the verdict guilty on all counts. A collective, audible sigh, a powerful wave of relief mingled with persistent, unresolved grief, swept through the courtroom gallery. Eleanor's body sagged, a choked sob escaping her lips as Robert pulled her close, tears finally streaming down his own face. As the judge read the sentence, life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, the chilling finality of the legal process settled in. For the Jenkins family, it offered not true closure, for nothing could ever restore Sarah to them. But it was a hard-won measure of justice, a solemn recognition that Sarah's life had mattered, and her killer would pay the ultimate lifelong price for his heinous act. In that moment, the relentless dedication of detectives Hayes and Chen and the unwavering strength of Sarah's parents found its bitter yet vital vindication. In the aftermath of the searing trial, Mapleton began the arduous process of mending, yet the indelible imprint of Sarah Jenkins's murder lingered, a subtle yet profound alteration in the town's collective spirit. For Eleanor and Robert Jenkins, their grief, once an all-consuming tempest, now began to forge a new resolute path. They funneled their immense sorrow, not into quiet despair, but into an unwavering determination to prevent similar tragedies, ensuring that Sarah's vibrant essence continued to resonate, a force for good. From the crucible of their unbearable loss, the Sarah's Light Foundation emerged. dedicated to offering compassionate support for families of homicide victims and raising crucial awareness about the insidious dangers of stalking. The foundation swiftly grew into a guiding force in the community. Eleanor, tapping into an inner strength she never knew she possessed, transformed into a formidable advocate. Her voice, clear and resonant, addressed local gatherings, sharing Sarah's story, not to dwell on the pervasive darkness, but to illuminate a clearer path forward for others grappling with similar pain. Robert, quieter, but equally steadfast, meticulously managed the foundation's operations, ensuring every dollar raised translated into tangible aid and vital educational outreach. Sarah was full of radiant energy. Eleanor would often affirm, her gaze resolute. And even though it was cruelly extinguished, we can still use that brightness to guide others out of their own shadowed valleys. The foundation ensured that Sarah's enduring narrative would not be solely defined by her tragic end, but by the remarkable resilience and proactive compassion of those who loved her, a living legacy echoing her impact. Detectives Hayes and Chen, having successfully delivered justice for another victim, returned to the relentless pursuit of truth that defined their professional lives. Yet the weight of cases like Sarah's, the stark images of the victims, the raw, echoing grief of their families, was a burden they carried with an almost stoic professionalism. Hayes, in quieter moments, found himself reflecting on the brutal dichotomy between the pristine purity of the first snowfall and the depravity it had concealed. Each solved case a grim victory that only deepened his commitment. Chen, ever analytical, perceived in Sarah's story a potent reminder of how easily hidden obsessions could erupt into such devastating violence, strengthening her meticulous approach to every minute detail. Their dedication remained unyielding, understanding that for every family like the Jenkinses, the quest for justice was a deeply personal, sacred trust. The small municipal park, once the scene of such profound horror, underwent a profound transformation. In the years following the crime, Mapleton rallied, planting native flowers and establishing tranquil benches. It evolved into a dedicated memorial garden, a serene space for quiet contemplation and poignant remembrance. Its vibrant blooms each spring offered a stark, beautiful contrast to the winter's starkness where a life had been so cruelly taken. Children's laughter once again mingled with the gentle rustling of leaves near the entrance, a hopeful symbol of life persistently reclaiming its ground. The snow, that initial cold witness, held within its memory not just the violence it had cradled, but also the enduring love it had illuminated, the tireless pursuit of justice it had facilitated, and the community's unwavering resolve to perpetually honor Sarah Jenkins. Her story, now woven into the very fabric of Mapleton, became a powerful testament to the indomitable human spirit, a solemn reminder that even in the face of unspeakable evil, hope can rise, healing can begin, and a legacy forged in the crucible of sorrow can ultimately triumph, casting its light across generations. In the relentless pursuit of justice, even the coldest heart cannot forever hide from the light of truth. If the relentless pursuit of justice, slowly unearthing truth from beneath layers of snow and deceit, compels you, then subscribe to Shadow Files for more stories that bring light to the darkest corners. Don't forget to subscribe to Shadow Files and hit the notification bell.